I believe in the last 2 Sundays, you have already heard some of these messages came from our 2 elders. Elder Dorai already kick-started our first Sunday when he started talking about faith, pray, and love, which is the greater works through greater love. And that is the theme for the year. And he gave with these 3 simple points to encourage us. It starts with faith, and then you got to pray, and then you have to love, because if you love Jesus, you must keep his commandment. And he talked about and tied all this. It comes from a consistency. You got to have a relationship in order to come to a place where you can ask and God will answer. And so that was a very powerful kickstart that will set us for our year, that this is our Antioch Church mission with the M100. And for this year theme is Greater Works to Greater Love. And then last Sunday, Elder Ho came and started to talk about the kingdom of God. And the message of the kingdom of God is this: we as a church have a bigger picture. And Elder Ho came to talk about, in the kingdom of God, there is a king and the king rule. And the citizen of heaven, we come under the sovereign of the king. So while we live here, there is a king that rules. And the citizen needs to come and follow that and fall under it. And therefore, we as a citizen of heaven, while we live on earth, we follow the kingdom mindset, the kingdom mentality, the kingdom work where the king rules. And I hope that helps you to capture there is a bigger picture while we do greater works through greater love. And this morning I'm going to continue. And I'm going to continue by sharing this short passage, which is titled A New Commandment. This passage today I'm going to continue before we even go to do greater works. In John chapter 14, I'm coming back to John chapter 13 this morning, tracking back, because Jesus prepared the way for his disciple, and he talked about, if you want to do greater things, NIV say greater things, another translation, greater works. If you want to do greater things, you must be founded and established in love. It is the love that is going to drive us and move forward. And therefore, on the topic of this greater love, I'm tracking back 1 chapter behind to tell you the foundation that Jesus prepared. What is the essence of this love he's talking about? Because he starts by saying, a new commandment I give you. So let's look at this verse and let's read. John 13, 34 to 35. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciple if you love one another. Please take note in these 2 verses, how many times he mentioned one another, one another. There's a context to this one another, and so we are going to dive into the Word of God, hopefully, that we will able to capture the revelation. What is Jesus is trying to say in this short verse? What is he preparing? And in order to do that, we need to go back to the starting of the passage, because John 13 starts when Jesus is going to the upper room. He comes to say we are going to have feast. He's going to prepare the upper room. They have no idea what is it all about. And Jesus starts this because he coming to terms, preparing his disciple, I'm going to the cross. I'm going away. He's facing the cross. And so he is here. And he comes to the upper room and he sets this setting. And the first thing he does in the upper room is that he throws himself on his knee to wash the disciples' feet. Now this is where the story kicks in, when Jesus is trying to talk and teach and say, what does it mean? What does it mean when he say, love one another as I love you? Because this is the scene that it starts. He threw himself on his knees and he began to wash all the disciples' feet. And then he begins to show them, this is how love one another as I love you. And so we are going to look at this revelation, going to capture this thing and come to a place and see what does it mean to us when Jesus really says love one another. So we come to this place, then he says, a new commandment I give you. So as we explore this passage today, what is the meaning of this new commandment? In Old Testament, they were already being taught, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. The principle of love has already been set from Leviticus chapter 17 and 19. You will see this, that God already taught his children that you got to love him and you got to love your neighbor. But then when come here, why did Jesus say a new commandment? Because he's talking about a new measure of love. A new measure of love. So I'm going to go inside a little bit to explain to you what is so different about this new commandment than the old one. In fact, it is an amplifying one. That's why I use the term, the measure. He brings a measure here and talks about the new commandment I give you is the new measure. And the measure he used is this: as I have loved you. The new measure is this: love according to Jesus. It simply means is this. I want you to picture this. He went to wash his disciples' feet. He threw himself. Some translation says that he took out his clothes. I'm not sure what does that mean, because NIV then says he put back his clothes. I don't know whether he took all his clothes, was he in his boxers, or did they even invented boxers during that time? But it's a bit disturbing when the translation say he put back his clothes. And then I went to do some cultural setting. What does that mean? What do you mean when you wash the feet and he took out? So it goes like this. Of course, the picture just now doesn't say much. It goes like this. In the old culture, they don't have boxes. They never invented. So they are free walking. So in the old culture, they wear different layers of clothes. And when the Bible translation emphasized he took out his clothes, means he took out his outer garment, he was vulnerable. It's a very shameful thing in the old thing when you take out certain things to expose. It's a very shameful thing, because in the Middle East till today you must cover up to here, right? This is their culture, because you're not allowed. You know why they do cover? Because of the sand. The sand wind. So they have to cover everything. But when Jesus did that, he's showing them true humility. That means how much he's willing to love them, to make himself vulnerable and exposed to come to a place. But it doesn't stop there. And I want you to ponder for a while how much he loved. Because there he was washing the feet of Thomas the doubter, Peter who denied him, and the best part, Judas who betrayed him. This is God showing us an example that when we get into our knees and love one another, means there is no biasness. There was no biasness, and it was unconditional love on his knees, washing their feet, even though he knew, you're going to doubt me, you're going to deny me, and you are going to betray me. But today, let's come back to the context, because we don't really capture what it means loving one another. Boy, oh boy, if somebody offend us, we have long face. When someone hurt us, when someone do something wrong, we show, we react. Can you imagine when Jesus watching Judas' feet? He's staring at him with his eyes and his face 1 mile long. You're going to stab me. I'm going to pull your leg and make sure you hit your head. This was the example that Jesus was teaching them, how he loved his disciple. Even though you're going to hurt me, and I know it, that it is you that is going to betray me, I'm still going to love you now. And this is the measure that you and I need to work. We need to capture this message. We need to come to that place. Do we have such revelation to capture that when God gives us love, or when God asks us to love, and when He talks about unconditional love, and we come to our setting today to say that we love one another, He was actually talking to His disciple. No, He said, love one another. The 12 of you, when I'm not here anymore and I'm going to the cross and I'm not going to come back, I expect you to love one another like how I have shown to you. The word vulnerable actually means that I'm open if you wound me. That's the meaning of vulnerable. It means that I'm open even if you're going to hurt me. I'm being vulnerable to you. I'm exposing myself to you. It will cause me shame. It can cause me hurt. I know you can hurt me, but I'm still willing to be open to love you. And that is the measure that God is teaching here. And He says, a new commandment I give you. It was about the measure of love. My challenge to you this morning is this. Love is a very powerful thing. Why? God is love. And love is so perfect, right? So when God is love and love is so perfect, when you put in the hands of human, we are all fallen nature. We cannot handle anything that is perfect. And therefore, because we cannot handle something so perfect, so pure, so powerful, you see the flaws. We cannot handle. Because when we try to figure out love, love can come in the form of overprotective, overbearing. Love comes in the form of when you don't know how to handle it, it is overwhelming. Love comes in the form of when we cannot handle it, it has an opposite reaction. Do you know how the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy love? It comes in the form of hate. It comes in the form of jealousy. It comes in the form of resentment. It comes in the form of bitterness. It comes in the form of hurt. This is how the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy love. And because we are human and we have something so powerful, how do you learn to wield this love? How do you learn? And so you will notice that, as children, we learn. We learn all about love. And then we see imperfect love. And therefore we grow up, we have a lot of imperfect love because we can't come to a place to love like Jesus. And then when we get into a relationship, we put up a show for 2 years, and then finally when marriage comes, that's it. We don't know how to wield love. And we struggle. And then it manifests in many ways. And we are not ready. And therefore, the way to move forward is to understand we are not perfect, but we need to exercise it. And that's why you learn through exercise. We all know that muscle is built through exercise. And so the doctors say exercise every day. If you don't exercise, you lose muscle. But many times we don't understand a simple concept like that. It applies to spiritual journey. That's why, as imperfect people, we need to exercise love with one another. And when it's overwhelming and overbearing, you have a community that comes around you to teach you. Do you know how you learn to be resilient, to move forward? Well, need to be vulnerable. Realize that we live in an imperfect world. So when you're hurt and you have issue, get help. What happens when you exercise and the body manifests, right? It is sore, it is painful. What do? We chop off the hand? What do? We take a break. We rest the muscle, treat the muscle, and find way to improve. And if you need to consume more protein to build up the muscle so that you can continue your exercise, because eventually the goal is we are going to have strong muscles. common sense. But in our spiritual walk, what happens if somebody offends us? It takes us years to deal with this bitterness. We are stuck. And this is where I want to point out to you. Love is a very powerful thing. And God wants us to love one another. But as we love one another, we need to learn. Come to a place. That's why I say love is achieved through effort. It gets messy. It is costly. It's not easy to love. I'm telling you, it's very challenging to love. And therefore, I'm going to show you this video. I want you to hear the audio, not so much of watching the video. So could you just listen to this audio? It's 8 minutes. I want to prepare you. But there is a lesson that I want you to learn. And if you capture, you will have a breakthrough this morning.
I had a crisis event happen to me in our previous facility on an Easter Sunday when I preached for the 3rd time that day, was bone tired. Bone tired. Poured out myself. The singers, choir had done a cantata, and people had come to Christ, and I prayed, and I got through with the meeting. The other building had a platform with no steps. So it was my habit to just sit like this and let my feet dangle down on the edge of the platform. And I was like, right, it was just about this same angle with the middle aisle. And I'm just saying, so tired. I remember taking my knot on my tie and loosening it and saying, you know what, I'm just going to chill. And Carol was playing just like Jamal's playing now, exactly. People praying, workers, deacons helping. And I was tired. I want to go home. Hadn't eaten all day. And then I look, and around the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th row, there's a guy in the aisle around level with the 5th row. He had a cap, filthy cap, but he had it in his hand. And he was staring at me and looking at me. And I could tell by his eyes, like he wanted to know, could he come up here and talk to me? And I just looked at him a little closer. Man, the guy was disheveled, filthy looking, matted hair, a mess. He looked in his 50s. He actually was 31. And I just looked at him. And I thought, because Everton, Tulia, they remember back in that building, we had a lot of people panhandling in the church. They would come in and ask for money, and we had procedures of what to do when people ask for money. So we don't want to build their habit and hand them money. They'll just go out and drink it. And I thought to myself, what a bummer, because I'm going to have to give money. I'm not even going to go through the procedures. I'm going to just give this guy some money. I had no wallet then. I had a money clip. So I waved him up, and he came. So I'm here. He got to about 5, 6 feet away from me. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa. Smell? No, a smell? You think you've smelled something? I'll match that smell with anything you've ever smelled in your life. A mixture of feces, urine, sweat, street, and alcohol. Stir gently and let it cook for a while, and that's what I smell. Nasty. I looked away to inhale, and I started questioning, what's your name, David? Okay, I'm a minister. Let me go through at least the procedures here. So, man, you look bad. I didn't know he was laying in his own urine right outside the side door on Park Place in that building. And he heard the music, and it drew him in. He was just sprawled laying out there. So he's there. Oh, Lord. Where'd you sleep last night? Deserted truck. How come you're not in a shelter? Too dangerous. Almost got killed last one I was in. Okay. Man, this guy smells bad. Missing 1 or 2 teeth. at least one right in the front. Let me give him $5, something. Not the way I wanted to end the day, but, what can you do? Took out the money. I remember handing it. Pushed it down. He said, I don't want your money. I want this Jesus you were talking about. And at that moment, I forgot all about David, because I knew who was really in need of prayer. It was Jim Cymbala. It wasn't David. So I forgot him. I lifted my hands, like I'm going to ask you to do in a moment. And I just said, God, please forgive me. What have I become? What kind of cheap two-bit preacher have I become? You sent somebody who's searching for you, and I want to give them a few dollars and get rid of them. Please help me. And God, that moment, baptized me with a love, with something, with grace. He saw how pitiful I was. And David knew it. And he drew close to me. And I started to cry. And he started to cry. And then he fell against me. And he put his head over here. And I put my arms around him. And he put his arms around me. And for a while, we just rocked back and forth. A preacher in need of God. A guy from the street in need of God. I'm not sure who was needy, or might have been me. You know what God spoke to me that moment? And this is not trendy at all. Those of you who want to go to like church growth institutes, this is not what this church is about. God spoke to me and said, you see that smell? If you don't love that smell, I can never use you. Because the whole world smells that way to me. All the stinking, filthy sin of mankind. I sent my son to die for that smell. So you're either going to embrace it and love people in my name, or I can't use you. I'll put you on the shelf. And if God is my witness, you can believe it or not, suddenly that smell became like the most beautiful lady's perfume you ever smelled in your life. It was just overwhelmed me. He was weeping, I was weeping. I led him to Christ. We prayed, we detoxed him for 4 or 5 days. Hired him on church staff, housekeeping. He spent Thanksgiving and Christmas at my house that year. My buddy got his teeth fixed, handsome guy. For that Christmas, all he had, he gave me a handkerchief. He wrapped it up in wrapping paper, gave me a white handkerchief. I kept it for years. It meant more to me than anything anyone could give me. You could have bought me a car. I would have said, keep your car. Give me that handkerchief. And what broke him and what broke me is God's love. Brothers and sisters, let's walk in love this year. Let's think about other people. Let's love other people. If they're different than us, think different than us, look different than us, smell different than us. I didn't grow up around that smell. I was blessed, fortunate, middle class, Polish, Ukrainian, middle class home. That wasn't my world. But it's God's world. And He wants to use all of us.
We need to come to a place where we capture such revelation, what it means to break us. Love must break us. Because if you're not willing to work on yourself, and if you want to wallow and stuck in where you are, God cannot use us. God cannot use us. And we cannot move forward. And that is why I need to challenge us, because we say we love one another, we say we belong to a community, we say that we come to YM, and how is it that in a community we do not share, we are not vulnerable, don't open ourselves, we don't tell things, we hide, we pretend. How can I say that I love you, but when you are not well, I don't know? When something happens, you hide. How can I say you love one another when the time comes that we need to grow and we need to be corrected, and then we avoid, we hide, we run away? What does that mean? How can you say you love one another? In a community, love means I add value to you. And sometimes it comes a lot in the form of correction because we are imperfect. The imperfectness in us need to be polished. And so God allow all these weaknesses. That's why He put love, a powerful thing, to us. So when we make mistake and when we have weaknesses and we need to be corrected, in your weakness, He is glorified. In our challenges, He is magnified. Because love conquers all. Love covers a multitude of sin. But if you know that scripture and if you know it, then that's where we grow in a community. And so we need to understand, really, love one another. We can go together for holidays and do things and pretend that we know one another, but we need to challenge ourselves. Do not be delusional. Because Jesus said, you will come to that place if you keep on feeding on my love, reflect on my love, look to the cross, see my example. That motivates you. That brings you in front. And my second point and last point for today is that this new commandment comes as a new fruit to the disciple, because He says, by this, the whole world will know that you are my disciple. Let me read this version again. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciple if you have love for one another. Do you know this is the fruit of the disciples? Because if you really have this new measure and you really go out, people will know that you belong to Jesus. And therefore, to be disciples who holds the mark of God is that we need to come to a place from deep inside. The love of God must be overwhelming. How can you go out and reach out to people who are hurting, struggling, and going through difficult time when you yourself haven't come to a place to master it, to experience it? How can I go out and share God's love when I don't allow God's love to manifest in my community? Do you know what happens when we go out to the enemy's camp and try to do Jesus' work? All he needs to do is storm, and the whole thing will shake. And if you have any seed of hatred, seed of jealousy, seed of insecurity, seed of resentment, seed of bitterness, that is the only crack the enemy will use and stop you from having victory. And the best part is, you are in control. You've been given all authority. You've been given the free will to take out all these things and cast it out. But you refuse to get help, refuse to talk about it, refuse to deal with it, refuse to go and handle it. You keep the seed inside and you live in delusional and say, I want to be used by God. Who made the choice to keep all these things? We always blame the devil. Yes. In today's world, love comes in the form of confusion, pervert, lust. These are all the opposite. Like I said, the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But the fruit of a disciple, when he says, by this everyone will know. One, we need to mature. We grow. All of us are work in progress until we die. All of us are work in progress until Jesus come back. But because we live in an imperfect love, we need to come together and work. Because Ephesians 3 says, together with the saints, you will experience how deep, how wide, how big God's love for you. Do you know what the Ephesians chapter 3 talks about? You will experience the perfect love of God in community. Last week, we finished the 14 days fast and prayer. Somewhere in November, I was part of this committee, and then I had to work with all the different languages. And let me tell you, boy oh boy, it's difficult to work with different group of people because, number one, the duck and the chicken have meeting, trying to conquer the world. We will never go anywhere. There's a language barrier. Second, there's a cultural barrier. Third, there is a preference. When we come together and we're trying to figure it out, how are we going to do this 14 days fast of prayer? There was a lot of frustration, there was a lot of disagreement, but there was one common goal. We want to glorify God, we want to glorify God. And this committee together, we went ahead and begin to sort out the differences, begin to sort out these challenges. Do you know what happened when the whole church with all the different languages came? We had a very powerful time, especially when I was at the prayer slot. I went to few prayer slots and begin to experience God in a powerful way. The moment you step into L3, there's this atmosphere that is so overwhelming. There was, in my eyes, I saw a mother and son who was so troubled for years. During that prayer slot, they begin to reconcile and begin to work and begin to embrace and begin to break down. There was this lady came with a severe back pain. By the time she finished the prayer walk, she started to walk straight and she was free from it. And then I saw many people with different languages. Doesn't matter, it was in Tamil, in Chinese, in Bahasa. They just came and they began to pray. And as a church, when we came together, put our differences, put our languages, put our cultural differences, and then, we begin to work together like that because we love God. And we had one aim, honor God, glorify Him. God came in a very powerful way and touched people. That's the goal we are working towards. This year in YM, we need this breakthrough. We need this breakthrough because last year we were praying for revival, and you and I didn't realize how revival comes. It came in a very unexpected way. God was challenging us. And the first seed of revival that took place came through the prayer, and then came through this 14 days fast and prayer committee. And then as we begin to start the year, this is the first time the whole church came to pray together, and we begin to see God move powerfully. These are signs, the hunger pan that God is telling, this is how I want to move. And it has to be together, it has to be all, it has to be everybody. And in that 14 days, I learned humility, how to love one another, what it really means to love, and work towards a goal. And that goal was God be glorified. I want you to watch this video clip.
Hi, I'm Andrew Lim, and I buy breakfast, every Saturday at my favorite coffee shop for the people, who serve us in the stalls as well as the helpers in the coffee shop. I was sitting down with one of the stallholders, the mee pok auntie, and noticed that she was eating her own mee pok. So I was just casually asking her, auntie, why are you eating your own food? And then she told me that, well, I didn't have much of a choice because I have to come up, to set up the stall early in the morning and prepare, for the first customers to come in. And then I found out that she ate this every day. And then I was saddened because I said, wow, how could you eat the same food, day in, day out like this? And that was what prompted me. I said, well, shouldn't I do something just to bless her? So then the journey began was I decided to buy breakfast for her instead. She was a bit taken aback. She didn't know how to receive the breakfast from me because I'm the customer. She's the one that's selling breakfast to me. Neighboring stalls took notice, right? So I began to buy more and more from the neighboring stalls. And so this thing spreads from the stallholders to the cleaners.
我是杨律师，我认识Andrew是7、8年的有很久了。
我自我介绍名叫阿醉我在咖啡店是红咖啡认识 Andrew 的。
我是阿静，然后我知道隔壁人把 Andrew 来。
他是做人去交朋友啦，交友情啦，所以买东西给我们是给很好的朋友。
有时买饭，有些买包啊，有些买这个烧麦有些买茶米粉都一个不一样的事
因為真感謝，因為天主講話，將做工我食空食。
我都莫名其妙，不知道怎么样，为什么这些年轻人这样好，我不清楚，我自己都不清楚。
Well, I think when we talk about the love of Jesus, it's really about the very simple things that you do. Or the other brothers, I shared with them about what I was doing in the coffee shop.
When he approached us to do this, there's no hesitation. It's the weekly thing. We basically help Andrew to buy some breakfast and just chit-chat with the uncle, auntie.
因为我们过生日他知道，他就买蛋糕给我们包红包什么都有。我真的是很感动这种友情很难找，真的。
过年是买水果买什么来他们吃咯，庆祝咯，对，我们是感动这个Andrew。
When I was in hospital this year, Andrew and the brother are very good. They help me to pray for you and very happy.
他在帮着我自己做工的，因为他病了，他中了癌症，结果呢，他就拿钱出来去医院看他，结果呢照顾他，买东西给他吃，他又回去马来西亚了。
他头做到尾，他进医院，他教堂都能帮助他。他的马来西亚老乡他有个母亲还拿钱给他妈妈呢。
Because of his cancer, and we extended kindness to him, so finally he accepted the Lord. But the episode of Anand created such an impact for us as well. Being able to reach out to them and to him and his family really bring us joy. So we say that we are Christian, we just want to show you Christ's love. That's how the love of Christ has been shown to us. We also will extend it to you.
They see our love, they see God's love, and they come to church with us,
When the relationship built over time, right, becomes something where I truly value. I don't think about when this is going to stop. And in terms of tiredness, I guess this is where the moment turned into joy because it is like a family. When we started out on all these outreach programs or initiatives, we thought that it will always be a time where we are there to bless other people. But many a times it is more true that we are blessed. For me and my brothers, what we were doing was just a little bit, allowing ourselves to catch a glimpse of what Jesus would have done by going the full distance for us.
A witnessing love comes from someone who is so filled with God's love and who is so consumed in God's love that they begin to show out of the abundance of heart. This year is a year of breakthrough. This is a year of breakthrough. And one of the breakthroughs we need this year is that we need God to give us a breakthrough how to love Him and how to love one another. We need that breakthrough. Without that breakthrough, we cannot move forward. If you say that greater works through greater love, God is on the move and He's already working. But if you do not deal with love, if you do not come to terms in having this love, what will happen when you just work is where you experience burnout. It is where you experience backsliding. It is where it comes and backfire you. God is going to work. And this year, something amazing, another wave of revival that God has prepared. And that is we are working towards M100. The church anniversary in March is going to be a movement, because we are coming to a place again as a whole church, different languages, learning from one another, experiencing one another, and come to this place and say, how can we capture greater works in the M100 movement? And it needs to start with us having a revelation of God's love. My question to you is, the number is the figure, but the work actually tells me, how much love do you have to see someone to encounter God? Do you know, when I experienced in my own eyes families being restored, healing took place in that L3, it really touched me so much. And I told myself, for all the meetings that I attended, for all the hours that I put in, for all the frustration and all the challenges and all the things that I have to do, come together and make this happen, it was all worth it when God was glorified. Do you have that heart to see someone out there who is hurting, who is confused, who is lost, who do not know God, and you are the only salt and light? Are you willing to be His workers to move forward? Then you need to throw yourself on your knees and say, here I am, God, use me, work with me. This year we are looking as YM to move forward and see how much of this M100 that we can be part of, because it's about extending. When I say we are going out and reaching the lost, is God stretching my heart and giving me more room to love Him and love others. And if you don't have, like that preacher just now, this conviction for God to baptize you in love and change you, you cannot love others. And if you continue to give the enemy the room to work on all the different flaws of love, because the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and you're very comfortable harping on the seat. Yes, your free will. You are keeping it. It's your body. It's your emotion. And you're not dealing with it, and you're not letting it go. You're not letting God to come in. This morning, my altar call is very simple. Are you willing to throw yourself on your knees to serve God? And are you willing to love others? As I invite the worship team this morning, I just want to take a moment of silence. Only God can convict your heart. Some of us need to come to a place and say, you need to work on this. If you're not working on yourself, on love, you cannot do the works. And let me tell you, this year, God has prepared a lot of works. And the revival I'm talking about is coming in a different form. It first needs to convict our heart. Second, it will definitely consume others. We can be so convinced about football and food and destination and holidays, and we can be so passionate about how we eat and how we dress and all the things that we do, but we are not passionate about God's love, how it can transform and change us. So this morning, if that's you, wherever you are, if you need to throw yourself on knees and say, God, use me, deal with me, fill me, then do it so. The second part is, who wants to be part of this movement? This year, we are going to go out and we are going to move. And it's going to be a movement. It's going to be a movement of love. Everything we're going to do is come back to that place. Is it driven by love? Because if it's not driven by love, it's burnout. It needs to be driven by love. Who wants to be part of this soldier and say, yes, I want to be part of this, Lord. Help me. And we need all the help we can, because we are going to work as a church. We're going to work as a church not as an individual ministry, but we are going to work as a church, how to glorify God.